Mr. Ribal Al Assad, it is indeed an honor to be able to interview you at this forum at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. Welcome. I'd like to begin by asking you my first question. Undoubtedly, the international community is so much concerned about what is going on in the Syrian conflict. How do you perceive the international community's performance and role in putting an end to the Syrians' predicament?
Thank you very much, Humama, for this interview. Actually, let me start by saying it's very sad what's been going on in Syria. And unfortunately, the international community has not been doing enough for Syria. The international community has been divided since the beginning of the uprising about how to resolve the Syrian crisis. It's very unfortunate because until now there's over 40,000 dead that, and we have more of death rising every day. And we don't see, unfortunately, a solution to the Syrian crisis. Today, I've been warning for the past year and a half, actually, about the rise of extremism in Syria, the infiltration of a lot of Al-Qaeda-affiliated groups such as Jabhat al-Nusra and others, and nobody has been listening. I said that we have to find a peaceful transition to democracy in Syria, and that's the only way out. Unfortunately, as you know, there was the Kofi Annan plan, which I welcomed, which I think that it was and it is still the only way out of the Syrian crisis. But to implement that plan, you have to have all parties to agree to that plan and to commit to that plan. But again, as you have seen, there is a division in the Security Council. There is a division between the West, the United States, Europe, and on the other side you have Russia and China about how to resolve the Syrian crisis. And we are wasting a lot of time. Time is passing by. Extremes are gaining a lot of ground in Syria. Until lately, as you have heard 2 days ago, that they decided to put Jabhat al-Nusra on the list of terrorist groups. But I still think it's not enough, because we have seen that there are a lot of people, including the new coalition that was lately recognized, that hardly represents all the Syrian people, as we have heard, saying that these are representative and they were recognized as the sole representative of the Syrian people. Unfortunately, they're not, because there was not a democratic process in which those people were chosen as representative of the Syrian people. What the international community has done is exactly what they shouldn't have done, because it's not the way forward towards democracy. It's not how you're going to build democracy, because it wasn't done in a democratic way. The country of Qatar invited a few countries, and a few groups of Syrian opposition, and excluded many others. And they have decided to create this new group, because they have failed with the first one, the SNC, which was 80% members of the Muslim Brotherhood. So now they want to kind of remodel that group. It's just a way of remodeling, giving it a new facelift. But in the core, it is still an Islamist, backed group. And they chose at the head of this group a cleric, who was the Mufti of the the Imam of the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. So this is hardly, as you know, Syria has nearly 45 to 50% of minorities, between Kurds, Alawites, Christians, Druze, Shias, Turkmen, Armenians, Circassians, and others. And those people cannot be seen as represented by mainly an Islamist opposition, and certainly not by a cleric. This is not the way that democracy will work in Syria. And again, unfortunately, you cannot have democracy that is brought by a country, for example, such as Qatar, or any other country who does not have democracy itself. It's very, how to say that? It's shocking, and ironic, actually, to see that countries such as Qatar and Saudi Arabia and other countries are the ones promoting for democracies in Syria. Why don't they start promoting democracies in their own countries? You know, if we are for democracy, I repeated it many times, we are for democracy everywhere. If we are for human rights and freedom, we are for human rights and freedom everywhere. Not we are just, we have to be, or we are selective in our democracy and human rights and freedom. And this is where the issue lies, is that today people in Syria are completely deceived by what was going on. Once, 2 years ago, people from all over Syria, from all ethnicities, sects, religious background, they came out together in the streets wanting change like other Arab countries. They wanted, and they saw that there was a hope in the Arab Spring to bring change, but change that they always wanted to see. It's certainly not the change that we are seeing all over the Arabs, you know, all of the Arab countries. They wanted a change towards genuine democracy, towards genuine freedom. They wanted to replace a dictatorship with a genuine democracy, but certainly not with a theocracy. And we have seen what's been going on in Egypt. We have seen what's been going on in Libya and Tunisia. Unfortunately, now again in Syria, is that there is only backing for the Islamist extremists. And this is not what the Syrian people want. This is why a lot of people have been deceived. A lot of people have lost hope in the future of their country. And as I said, it's very sad that the international community is not backing genuine democracy. We understand from, you understand from country like Qatar and Saudi, they want for their own interest, they just want to back their own groups. Groups who share the same ideologies, you know, such as Salafi groups, Salafis, Wahhabis, Muslim Brotherhood. But this is certainly not what we are used to. This is certainly not how Syrian societies and other Arab societies are made up. And this will never work in a country like Syria, where it is made up of a beautiful mosaic of different people living together in the same country.
I just wanted to touch upon one point you made earlier. You said that Kofi Annan's 6-point peace plan is the only way out. Why then do you think the plan failed? Was it due to not having a clear strategy in place, or was it due to an absence of a united opposition? And what concrete steps do you think need to be taken to achieve a peaceful transition to democracy?
The Kofi Annan plan was perfect, but to implement it, as I told you, you have to have everyone to commit to it. As Kofi Annan himself said, that everybody was doing nothing but pointing fingers at each other in the Security Council. This is very unfortunate, because it did not work. Now with Mr. Ibrahimi again, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. They are very courageous man to take that that initiative. But if no one else around you wants to implement it, so what are you going to do? When in the plan there should be dialogue between the opposition and the regime to have a peaceful transition to democracy. How could you first you have to unify the opposition, because what opposition is going to have dialogue with the regime? You know, which one? There's many groups. They have to be unified onto one platform, and it has to be an all-inclusive. You know, unfortunately, what we've been seeing today, it's not an all-inclusive opposition, because they have, as I told you, have kept many parties out, including the Kurds, the minorities, many other people, the secular people, and they have chosen only the people that suits their own interests. You know, and again, I told you, it's very sad to see that, I don't think that honestly that Lakhdar Brahimi would be able to move forward without all sides committing to the Kofi Annan plan. And it's the only way out, because people have to understand that there's no military solution out. You know, you cannot change things with a military solution. This is impossible. First, because there's a destruction. Syria today is completely destroyed. Aleppo is completely destroyed, which was, you know, one of the most beautiful cities in the Middle East. A lot of large areas of Damascus are being destroyed every day. Homs is completely destroyed. You know, Hama, Deir ez-Zor, Daraa, it's a destroyed country. They have to understand that it's not in their interest to destroy their countries, both the regime and the opposition, because whoever comes later, you cannot come and govern over thousands and thousands of your own people, you know, of corpses of your own people, or over rumbles Your country, what are you going to govern? It's a completely destroying country. This is what you're going to get. Who's going to come and help you rebuild that country? And this is what they have to start thinking about. Not thinking about let's destroy it and then we'll rebuild it. This is complete nonsense. So they have, and again, you have sides backing. You have, as we hear, you have countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia who's been backing with arms and money and funds and training, including in Turkey, training all those opposition groups, including, you have Free Syrian Army, you have Salafi group, you have Wahhabi group, you have Muslim Brotherhood, you have former military people, you have people who are just protecting their homes. And at the same time, on the other side, you have countries such as Russia, Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, other groups in Iraq, who are also giving arms and help to the Syrian regime, because that's in their interest. So each group is really siding and protecting their own interests, and unfortunately they have divided in that way the region into sectarian lines. You have the whole region today, unfortunately, has been divided between Sunnis and Shias, and this was, you could see that role being played in so many television channels such as Safa and Wisal, who are based in Saudi Arabia, and who promote religious and sectarian hatred and sectarian violence. They call every day, you have clerics on those television channels who call on jihad against the Shias and the Alawites and other minorities. You have the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia who called on burning, that it was duty for all Muslims to burn all churches in the Middle East. So this is hardly going to lead to a peaceful transitional change. This is going to lead to more chaos. This is going to lead to a regional war, not only a civil war in Syria. It started out to be, and I warned about it. I said, you have to be careful not to militarize the conflict because it's going to lead to a civil war. Now it is a civil war. It is unfortunately a civil war, not still a full-out civil war, but it is civil war, and it's going to lead to a regional war, as we have been seeing lately from what's been going on with the Kurdish population in for example, in Turkey, with clashes in the northern city of Lebanon, in Tripoli, between Alawites and Sunni faction, between people who back the Syrian regime and people who are against the Syrian regime. We have seen also there was some fire shots between the Jordanian army and the Syrian army. We have seen that there were some Islamist militants who were arrested by Jordan trying to cross into Jordan, and they had planned into putting bombs in Jordan. We have also a lot of problems going on now between Iraq and Turkey, and between Iraq, the government of Iraq, central government, and between the Kurdish area, between Kurdistan. And this shows you that how deep, the problems are going. We have again the unrest in Bahrain. There's no military. The people have to understand there's no military solutions, neither in Syria nor in Bahrain nor in anywhere. The only way out is diplomacy, is to sit and talk and agree. All great powers have to sit together and agree the way forward. They have to agree that we have to move forward with diplomacy. We have to have an all-inclusive, peaceful transition to democracy. And this has to be agreed, I told you, by the major powers. Because if you leave the people in the Middle East to resolve the issues on their own, we're only going to get a full disaster. And it's going to lead to a regional war. And we are getting closer and closer every day to that. And at that time, when things will start, I think it's going to be too late. Honestly, I'm very pessimistic, and I wish I could be more optimistic, but I'm very pessimistic. And the more we are going ahead, and the more we're going to have, a darker future for the area.
Do you believe that the Syria-Turkey conflict is inevitable when you're speaking about regional war?
It looks like Turkey should have from the beginning acted as a broker between the Syrian regime and the opposition. Because Turkey had a very close relationship with the regime. And Turkey also is seen as a democracy in the Middle East. Unfortunately, Turkey took sides in that sectarian conflict in the region. And I say again, this very unfortunate. Turkey was very close to the Muslim Brotherhood. Turkey has taken sides. They have the first meeting of the Syrian opposition was mainly members of the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, they had created the Syrian National Council in Turkey, which was 80% members of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they have only decided to back this group. They have a lot of those fighters that you're seeing in Syria that came from Libya and many other countries. I know personally that 800 fighters from Libya went through Turkey, to Syria. So it played a role into, if we don't say training or funding, but at least into giving access to those people to go and fight in Syria. But this first of all has taken Turkey out of the equation of becoming a possible intermediary between the regime and the opposition. And it also has given Turkey an image that it's not really a democracy. I mean, in democracy, you don't side with the sectarian, on sectarian line. You could side with, I'm for democracy against dictatorship, but you cannot say I'm with that group against that group. I just give you an example. Prime Minister Erdogan came out in August and during Ramadan and during Eid, and he said, I ask myself if the Syrian president is really a Muslim. Well, this is, in Islam, you have to understand, which I'm sure if you're, when you start questioning if someone who belongs to a certain minority or a certain sect or others or religion group or others, you are inciting indirectly other groups to attack you because you are considering them as infidels. So you have taken a big portion of the Syrian population out and kind of excluding them by saying that and putting them into harm's way. At the same time, let's not forget that Turkey has a lot of minorities themselves. I'm talking about mainly the Alawites. Turkey has over 20 to 25 million Kurdish Alawites. So it was not very wise from him to say something like that, And again, the Syrian regime has played that card and has withdrawn from all Kurdish areas from Syria and has given support to Kurdish group to do the same thing in Turkey. You see, so Turkey has opened even a lot of doors on it, a lot of, that has to do with their national security. This was something that was not very smart, and it was criticized even by the main opposition groups in Turkey. Today they are asking for Patriot missiles, which they're going to get, Patriot missiles. But the problem is that, first of all, we know very well that the Syrian regime is in too much trouble to even try and dare attack a country that's Turkey, because Turkey also is a very powerful country and is part of NATO. That's to start with. So why would they attack Turkey if they know very well any attack on Turkey would lead to retaliation by all NATO members? So this is the last thing that Syria would like to see. But this is only a provocative act because, as Russia has said, Russia, in their turn, it is said that they have now sent Iskander missiles to Syria, which can, defy all those Patriot missiles. So you see, we are doing nothing but militarizing even further the conflict. The Syrian regime today is much better armed than it was before the crisis, before the revolution in Syria. Before the revolution, the Syrian regime did not have the surface-to-sea missiles. They did not have the latest surface-to-air missiles, and they did not have the Iskander, the Iskander missiles, which now have all been provided by Russia. So this is what I'm telling you again. We are going, through very hard times, and a conflict could happen anytime. And it's very unfortunate if we don't all of us try to stop it here. All organizations, including the ICD, Iman, ODF, and many other NGOs and other countries or people who believe that further conflict or further militarization or a regional war has to be avoided at all cost. We have also to listen to what the Russians have been saying in the past year and a half or 2 years. Medvedev has warned of a nuclear regional war in a speech at St. Petersburg. Lavrov lately has said the Arab Spring is going to become a nuclear winter. So we have to listen carefully to what those leaders say, because they don't talk out of the blue. When they say something, we have to understand what's behind it and be very careful where we're heading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to conclude with my last question. You're the chairman of Iman Foundation, an institute which promotes dialogue to strengthen international understanding and coexistence through the exchange of ideas, people, culture, and religion. What added values does your foundation bring to intercultural dialogue and international peace?
First of all, let me explain to you how it came about that we started the Iman Foundation. First of all, I started the Organization for Democracy and Freedom in Syria much before the Arab Spring, and then I started, looking at what's been going in the Middle East, a couple of months later, and I said, but to move towards democracy and freedom in the Middle East, you cannot move without dialogue, because it is the most important thing today is you need to have dialogue between faith, cultures, and inter-religious dialogue, which is very important in the Middle East. Interfaith is very important in many countries such as Lebanon, such as Syria, such as Egypt. And intrafaith is very important, as I told you, where between Muslims themselves, because a lot of countries have been trying to hijack a certain part of Islam for their own interests. Iran, for example, trying to hijack the Arab Shias, for them to get greater influence in the Middle East. And at the same time, the Gulf states such as Qatar and Saudi Arabia have been trying to hijack the Sunni Islam to get greater, influence in the Middle East and North Africa. So this is where we come from. First of all, me being an Arab, a Muslim, who has lived in exile since I'm 9 years old. I've lived a bit all over the world. I lived in France. I've lived in the US, in the UK, in China, in Spain. I understand about the cultural differences. I understand about the religious differences. I understand about the inter-religious differences, intra ones also, and the importance of its dialogue. But I also understand that we are, at the end of the day, we are all humans, and we have lots more that we share than we differ on. We could be Muslims or Jews or Christians or Buddhists. We all share 99% of things in common, and this is what we have to concentrate on. We cannot fight and kill each other over 1% that we all differ on. And this 1% is not really the core. It's really just things that are on the outside. How people what they should wear. If you should wear the veil or the burqa or not, or do this or not, or pray or not pray, or eat this or not eat. These are things that are not so important. Why don't we concentrate on the things that we share in common? Like the peace, peace, love, love for humanity. Why religion came in the first place on earth is to unite us, certainly not to divide us. This is what we have to understand. This is where we have Judaism, this is why we had Christianity, this is why we have Islam, is trying to unite people. Unfortunately, people are not understanding this language, and they are trying to use that to even put more obstacles, and try to create more fight out of nothing, just for political gains. And we should stop them. We should be all one hands, because, as I said, people who are moderate, people who are open-minded, people who share these values, who are universal values of democracy, freedom, tolerance, understanding, coexistence. We are the majority, But unfortunately, we are not making our voices heard enough. The minorities, the ones who are the extremists from all religions, they're the ones who make the news. And this is where we have to say, we have to stop that and say that's enough, and we have to make our voices heard. We have to make voices such as the moderate Mufti of Egypt, Dr. Ali Goma, who says that in our meeting with him, who said that all religions, we are all brothers, including, he didn't stop at just saying Jews, Christians, and Muslims. He included even people who are Buddhists, people who are Hindus, and others. We're all brothers, and we have to understand that. What we share in common is humanity and Earth, which is ours. And this is what I think that we have to work on in Iman and both ICD, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a great privilege to have you here speak with us, and thank you very much, Mr. Al Assad. Thank you.